Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We would like to present our mini research result, which is the museum marketing strategy analysis to survive the COVID-19 pandemic. Our case study of the Chinese Peranakan Library Museum, or we can call it MPPT. The authors are Fajrini, Azmi, and Mareta Dian Artanti. The abstract. The study aims to analyze the strategy carried out by Chinese Peranakan Pustaka so that it can continue to run during the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result of this pandemic, many museums are closed in the sense of that they are not active. During the physical closure of the Chinese Peranakan Pustaka Museum, it continued to gain popularity and an active response from the public. The study was conducted using a qualitative approach to the type of explanation to identify the strategies used by MPPT. Data collection techniques in the study were carried out by in-depth interviews with the owner of the Chinese Peranakan Pustaka Museum, literature study publication media about this museum, and direct observation to the location. The introduction. The level of public visits to the museum is still very low. It is caused by various factors. We found some factors that we can write it down, which is still many museums that are less proactive in attracting visitors through new media, the bad image attached to this institution. Indonesian people view museums as ancient, boring, scary places, and are considered as warehouses of old objects. The third one is museum manager often trapped in partial museum concept, which sees the function of the institution only to maintain and store collections. Museum service only limited to collection exhibitions, where visitors are directed to tour independently. Visitors are welcome to view the collection and read the caption that describes the collection. The concept of a museum like this clearly creates a boring and meaningless visiting experience. So that researchers feel that those causes people's reluctance to visit the museums. The COVID-19 pandemic has made this situation worse. With the PPKM and stay-at-home policies, museums are getting bigger challenges. Prohibitions and restrictions on community mobility reduce public interest in visiting museums. According to UNESCO and the International Councils of Museums, Icoms, since the COVID-19 outbreak, 90% of the 85,000 museums in the world today have not opened public visits. And according to the same data, almost 13% of the museums are predicted to never be reopened after the pandemic subsides. In other words, they are permanently closed. The effects of the pandemic have cut museums' visits, which can be seen as a projections of Indonesia's three main museums. We chose Museum Nasional, Museum Satria Mandala, Museum Sejarah Jakarta. As we can see, through three numbers of visitors from year 2018 until 2020, there is a very clearly reductions from the visitors itself. Our source is from the DKI Jakarta Provincial Tourism Office. Museum Pustaka Peranakan Tionghoa. MPPT is a museum located in South Tangerang City, Banten Province, Indonesia, located precisely in CBD BSD City, Shop Complex Block C28, number 25, BSD, Tangerang Selatan. Occupies a two-story shop house with 40,000 museum collections in the form of literature, library sources such as manuscripts, books, research results, printed media, magazines, newspapers, bulletins, printed documentations such as photos, birth certificates, citizenship letters, printed advertising media such as brochures, plates, nameplates, banners, etc. A private collection museum that is independently funded and donated to be used by the wider community as a historical reference in the form of a library collections with historical segments from one of the Indonesian ethnic groups, namely the Chinese ethnic group. Until now, there is no levy of fees on visitors to the museum. Since its opening in 2011, the museum has received visits from various domestic and foreign circles, has been covered in local and international news and journals, and has become a reference for research sources for various researchers from various domestic and foreign scientific fields. Uniquely, during the physical closure period, MPPT continued to interact with museum audiences and continued to gain popularity through media coverage. And it also has 24,300 search results on Google per today. Literature review and hypothesis development, which is marketing communication mix, which is promotion mix. According to SIM, year 2007, marketing communication mix is a communication activity to consumers in the form of planning, modeling, unifying the form and implementation of many dimensions of marketing communication. An example, advertising, individual selling, sales promotions, public relations, and direct marketing, which is carried out continuously and consistently aimed at consumers and potential consumers. Our methods are: one, type of research. The purpose of this research is to describe, explain, and analyze the strategies implemented by Chinese Peranakan Pustaka Museum. So the research method used is qualitative with the descriptive approach. So the research method used is qualitative with descriptive approach according to Ima Dewinarta, is to identify, describe, and collect it in the form of interviews or observations about the problem studied that occurred in the field. Two, the data analysis method. This data analysis method using interviews and observation by answering questions such as what, why, or how, literature studies, and from various sources, and is carried out continuously. The last stage in this method is data interpretation. The analysis is done by comparing the existing theories with the data obtained. In this analysis, the author observes directly and understands the conditions that MPPT has in relation to its marketing strategy, so it can survive until now and still get a positive response from the community. Here is the template of marketing communication mix that we use from SIM 2007, which is the marketing communication mix consists of advertising, public relations, sales, promotion, personal selling, and direct selling. Result and discussion. MPPT created a Facebook group account with the name of MPPT, which currently has 21,070 members as of November 2021, and the demand continues to grow. Here are the results which we have from Facebook. The data that shows how many members from the Facebook group of MPPT. In-depth questions to the museum manager in the form of questions consist of: what did the museum do in the face of PPKM policy by the government? How does the museum carry out activities during this pandemic, and how is the response from the community? Who does the museum activities? During the pandemic, MPPT closed its museum's visits and replaced them by fulfilling invitations as resource persons and various national and international seminars, or cooperate with various parties to organize online seminars as well, with an average of 6 until 7 seminars per month. For its Facebook group account, MPPT during the pandemic experienced an increase in posts to an average of 100 posts per week, and this post was responded positively by group members. Currently exploring TikTok and Instagram apps. During this pandemic, interviews and media coverage are still allowed. The social media posting, seminar attendance, and participations are carried out directly by the museum owner. The owner of the museum has a direct conduit of information. This attracts museum enthusiasts because of the intimacy of the communication and a more familial effect. Perceived barriers. Limited museum employees in terms of mastery of museum content to respond to digital communication on social media, and difficulty answering some community questions related to Chinese-Indonesian history due to the lack of digital access to museum collections. So it takes time to find information manually before answering the question. Discussion result. The marketing communication strategy can be identified as follows. A, advertising and sales promotion. By accepting requests from coverage electronics, prints, and broadcast media, the museum gets free advertisements that continue to run without any rebroadcasting time limits, and of course, without the burden of cost to be faced. B, individual selling and direct marketing. Direct information delivery is carried out by the museum owner, where he goes directly to the public to respond and convey what the museum has. This becomes an added value to the same time, where this uniqueness is rarely done in other museums, which tend to be managed by the governments or organizations that involve many parties. The community feels warmth and intimacy by interacting directly with the owner. C, public relations. Interacting directly with the community through social media. There is an increase in community relations. The community feels quickly responded to the curiosity and questions and feels involved in being part of the historical discussion posted on the museum Facebook account. There was an interesting interaction between people who are interested in history and historians from various countries who are also members of the museum Facebook group. Conclusion. The marketing communication strategy of Chinese Peranakan Pustaka Museum was analyzed so that it could be an alternative strategy that other museums could imitate in order to increase the public's attractions and interest in information provided by the museum, even during the pandemic. The marketing strategy uses a marketing communication mix strategy. Based on the result of the study, it can be concluded that several factors possessed by the Chinese Peranakan Pustaka Museum are in terms of uniqueness compared to the other museum. The regular and interesting digital activities carried out by MPPT have attracted a good response among the public. The management system, which is under the direct responsibility of the owner, makes MPPT more attractive for the community to follow. The delivery of information on the content of the museum becomes more intimate and familiar, a very economical tool where no fees are charged for museum enthusiasts. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for our opportunity so we can present our mini results, our mini mini research. Thank you very much.